Hi, my name's Kayla Sperling. I have two little girls, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I was raised in Nebraska, moved to Lincoln when I was in high school. And my journey with brain things, I suppose, started at a very young age. I was surrounded by just a lot of sorrow, a lot of grief, a lot of death in my family. And then when I was 9, after having attended several funerals of close family members, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. She died when I was 15. And I just remember feeling very depressed and very, just always like my brain wasn't working well. And I really struggled with that because I was trying to find this way within my spirituality to also cope with the grief and the sorrow. And after several years of really struggling and feeling really hopeless, my dad and I decided that I should start seeing a counselor. That was really one of the best things we ever did, because what it did was it helped me sort through a lot of the emotional sides of things to get to the point where we could make a really good evaluation of what was going on. After about 3 years of really good therapy and counseling with this therapist, I remember her saying to me, you've worked through so many things and you seem like you're doing so well, and yet your brain just still seems like something's not right. And so it was just this weird feeling, but I felt kind of hopeful that maybe it wasn't my fault that I was feeling sad, and maybe there was an actual physiological issue going on there with my brain. And so that was actually really hopeful for me. Unfortunately, the journey didn't just get easy then. There was still a lot of difficulty with going on medications and trying different things that never seemed like good options, and they never really made me feel like my brain was working well. So maybe I wouldn't feel sad, but I still didn't feel like my brain was functioning at its highest level. It was this same counselor then that had heard about brainwave optimization. At this point, I was dealing, after the second birth of my daughter, with really severe postpartum depression. I had trauma during the birth that had just triggered a lot of anxious feelings. I didn't feel good. I felt very out of control, and I was noticing a lot of anger and rage within me that was not, I did not feel like myself. And so that was what led me to brainwave optimization. And I remember when I came here, I felt so hopeful because it wasn't an invasive procedure, and also just that I knew that there was something going on with my brain that needed to be balanced. And so when I heard that terminology and saw how my brain, my right and left brain, were just not working together, that just made so much sense to me. And so one of the first things I noticed after a couple of sessions with the brainwave optimization was that I started to feel well rested. I remember the first night of sleep, I slept, and that felt like such a miracle. And then within a couple of days, the only way I can describe it is that it felt like there had been white noise in the background of my brain that just shut off. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And then one day it dawned on me that I had stopped thinking about traumatic things happening to me all the time. So as I started to realize that my whole day had been filled with filtering everything that was happening to me through this lens of trauma and sorrow and grief and death. And so if my baby wouldn't wake up on me when I thought she would wake up, I would immediately think that she had died. Or if my husband wouldn't come home when I thought he was supposed to come home, I would think he'd been in a car accident. And to be honest, I thought that was really normal. My brain had been like that for so many years that I thought that was how everyone's brain worked. And so that was the first thing for me, was I remember feeling like I wasn't on high alert at all times. Then I started to notice that I was just handling things better. When something that normally would have triggered me to feel really depressed or hopeless, something would happen to me, and I just felt really level, like, oh, I can handle this. And I told my husband that it felt like a lamp had maybe been on in my brain, and I thought that was as bright as it could ever get, and then all of a sudden the light switch turned on, and it was just like things were working. And so it honestly, it felt almost too good to be true, because we had worked for so many years to get where we had gotten with brainwave optimization, and it was so easy. It felt effortless, you know. It was sitting in a chair and relaxing my brain and letting my brain do what it had been wanting to do all along, which was balance itself and optimize itself. And so that's really what I just feel so passionate about telling people about this, because I think our culture is terrified of brain issues. We're so scared of the brain, thinking that once it's broken, it can never be fixed. And so that's really my encouragement, is that this brainwave optimization is so simple. Well, it's really just an incredibly complex thing that's happening, but it's simple for us. It's simple to just let our brain do what it wants to do, which is just optimize itself and balance itself. And gosh, I'm such a huge fan of especially this Lincoln office, because there's just such an amazing warmth when you come in here, and safety, which I think a lot of people that are dealing with brain issues don't feel safe with a lot of the treatments that they're getting, and here it just felt so good and so safe, and it worked.